As a car dealer, I think the perception is that you sell iron and you service iron. For me, it's always been a totally different dynamic. My love of the automobile business evolves around the importance of what the automobile does for the individual. We need our automobiles so much, and for our everyday life, first of all, but more importantly than that, there is such an emotion that evolves around the individual and their automobile, whether it's the excitement of buying a new car and how important that is, or the stress of having your car in for service and not knowing how long it's going to take before you have it back, or how much it's going to cost, or whether it's even being diagnosed properly, or the stress of buying the car and are you getting the right deal, and how if everything's going to be okay, if you're going to get ripped off, all the different dynamics that surround the feeling and the emotion of the automobile purchase is really what has always interested and excited me. So I feel that I'm a real advocate to the human behind the car. After I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I was recuperating at home, and I had just an insatiable desire to get in a Mustang convertible and drive around really fast, and which is somewhat unusual for me because after all these years in the automobile business, cars don't really excite me the way they used to. So I called the sales manager at the Ford dealership and I asked him if he would please bring up the fastest, the biggest engine Mustang convertible he could find, and please put it in the garage for me. So the car came, and that afternoon, of course it was March, I put on my winter coat and my hat and my favorite music, and I went out and I started driving, and I drove and I drove. And I started doing that day after day after day, and I would take my young daughter, who was 5 at the time, and we'd go and listen to her favorite music, and I'd bundle her up in a snowsuit, and it was just a very comforting time for me, and it just made a huge difference. So about 4 or 5 months later, I found out that Ford had a car, a Mustang convertible that they were making for the Susan Komen cancer awareness, and there was a package for a breast cancer package. So I decided that if I could just have one other woman experience that exact same thing, that would just bring such an incredible amount of joy to me. So I bought the car and I started advertising that any woman that had breast cancer could enter, and that was the only requirement. Well, what happened was it went viral. It got on the web, it got national, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people applied. So I ran it for 30 days during the month of October, and at the end, I pulled the name. And when I pulled the name, I called the woman, and she didn't answer for like 3 or 4 days. Finally, her son-in-law called me and said that she had been very private. She was a 20-year survivor. She had never talked about being a breast cancer survivor, didn't want to talk about it, and really didn't feel like she could even come into the dealership. And I said, well, she's got to come. She's got this brand new car. She's got to come. So I finally got her to talk to me. And I said, listen, you come. We'll be quiet. We'll do it in a separate room. I'll give you the paperwork and you can leave. So we did that. And she came. And she'd had a horrible experience with breast cancer. It had been many years ago, long before women were talking about it. And we sat down and we did the paperwork. And she did confide in me with some things that were especially difficult for her. But at the end of the conversation, after we'd finished all the paperwork, she said to me, I just have to tell you just one thing. And I said, well, what's that? And she said, I've had a dream since I was a breast cancer victim. And I said, well, what's that dream? And she said, my dream was always to be able to buy a convertible so that I could drive it. And it just was such an incredible feeling for me, and such a catharsis for me and for her, that it's a story that I think really needs to be told. We had 50,000 applicants, and we had no idea, or contestants, we had no idea who would win this car. And to have a woman win who had been hidden, and afraid, and have her be able to come to the forefront and be the winner was just such an incredible gift, not only to me but also to her, because it could have gone to anyone. And this a double mastectomy, 20 years hiding, long before all that we know about breast cancer today. I mean, now it was 25 years ago. I mean, people didn't talk about it. And this woman didn't even want to come in and get the car because she was so, she just wanted to keep it hidden. And to me, I felt like I was a real vehicle to be able to make that happen.